Hi everybody, it's Jessica and I am an Enneagram life coach, and today we're going to do a short video on some of the things that happen at point 5. And just as a reminder, you don't have to be a point 5 to experience or to understand the world from this framework. And I don't know, I feel like I always start out by saying type X is always so misunderstood. But it is true of all of us, right? And type 5s are so misunderstood. And I appreciate type 5 because even though I'm a 7, I grow by going to point 5, which is also a head type. Type 5 is in the head space. They are very cerebral people. They are the most private types of people of all. And 5s, you know, what happens when you don't, I should say, because they don't reveal a lot, because they don't show their cards a lot, the rest of us assume and fill in the blanks. And I know before my husband and I knew the Enneagram, I definitely did that. I was totally guilty, you know, because when somebody acts a certain way, most of us, if we don't understand Enneagram or human personality, we think, well, I would respond that way if such and such were happening, therefore such and such must be happening to them. But that's a very bad assumption, as I now know. So learning that my husband was a type 5 has been hugely helpful. And today I'm just going to do a brief overview on what's happening in 5 world. And I am getting a lot of this information from my book, Enneagram Grace by Jessica Lee, which you can find on Amazon. And on page 92, we talk about details of the 5 story. So if you recall, the vice at 5 is avarice or hoarding. What that means is type 5s are fear types, they're head types, and as such, it feels to 5s like the world doesn't have enough of whatever. Resources, energy, it could be money, it could be time. So a 5 is extremely autonomous, and their strategy for dealing with this life that is demanding so much from them or that requires so much of them is, and it could be subconscious, but what they're basically thinking is, okay, I know what I'll do. It's a rough world out there. There's a lot of competition. It's hard to get what you need, and people want so much from you. So in order not to be catastrophically depleted, I will isolate. I will learn what I need to learn. I will collect data, and I will make myself competent in my own right so that I don't need to be connected to other people, or so I don't owe other people things. 5s are, they are very aware. Well, no, I should say they're not. They might not be aware that this is the framework they live in, but it feels to them like the finiteness of things is a very stressful situation. So, this is just, so I'm married to a 5, and it's funny because we both wear these running watches. We're both runners. He's a way better runner than I am. But one of the things, we wear these Garmin watches, and they tell you, like, in real time, your energy levels, and, you know, if you wear them, they tell you when you're sleeping, and they have this thing called the body battery. But my husband is so sucked in, right? So kind of withholding, so quiet, so calm, so private, so reserved, so stone-faced, that his watch can think he's in deep sleep when he's just sitting on the couch watching TV or reading a book. So on the flip side, my watch seems to always think I'm like on the verge of a mental breakdown. My watch is constantly telling me, relax, take a breath. His watch is just thinking he's getting sleep when he's not. So, but it's funny because that's a reflection of how he shows up. He presents as super calm, super straight line, right? It's very hard to get a 5 activated. I mean, even if something is to most of us activating, they are in their minds, and so their responses are retained inside of their heads. They prefer to intellectually observe and reflect on life while being entirely in their heads. And so what can happen is they can be completely disconnected from their body and also from their heart. So meaning they don't experience emotions the same way as other types. Although if they go into their 4 wing, that could be an exception to this. But the central 5 space is not really that aware or even that interested in their feelings. Feelings don't seem logical, and fives are trying to be logical and practical and, solutions oriented. So they tend to accidentally, I guess, avoid emotions. They are fearful about emotional pain and vulnerability, and that's not really obvious. So what that means is, on a really profound level, fives generally, they are sensitive. They're actually quite sensitive, but you wouldn't necessarily know that by being friends with one or even being married to one, because they don't show their cards. They don't speak a lot. They don't say a lot of what's on their mind. And so part of that, though, is because they are so withdrawn, because they know that feelings is like unknown terrain to them, and fives don't like going places that they're not familiar with or that they don't feel competent in. They can forget that life is abundant, meaning that resources renew. Mercies are new every morning. We live on an abundant earth, and if you believe in a higher power, you can believe in an abundant God, and that gets lost on them. And, it would be a daily practice for five to return back to that, to remember that they do have enough. They will have what they need in the moment, and they don't have to store up all their nuts for winter, so to speak. Fear, they have a big fear of losing autonomy or being taken over or being annihilated or engulfed or totally just drowning and depleting in what others want from them. So they are kind, and they are willing to help, and they are certainly willing to offer their expertise to the world. And when they do that, it's in limited amounts, and they need to budget. The word budget is very important to fives. If they are going to do something kind for someone or help someone, and they will do that, but they need to do it on their terms, and they will have thought through it ahead of time, how much time it's going to take them to do this project, or to teach this person this thing, and they need to have like an end in sight. Like, it can't just be an ongoing open-ended thing, right? Because that makes them feel depleted. So they will help, but they're going to be measured in their help, and they will plan it ahead of time. And that ahead of time thing brings up another point. Some of us respond quickly to things. You hear something and you immediately have an opinion of it. That's not how it is with fives. Fives are slow at internal processing, but that's because they want to be accurate, and they want to think through things very, very deeply before they respond to things. And the reason this is important is because if you're in a relationship with a five, if you come at them with a problem in the relationship, or even just something in the world that you want to ask them about, they're not comfortable with giving you an off-the-cuff answer. They need to think about it. So even if you're having a disagreement, or if there's something in a relationship you want to discuss, what is most helpful is to present it to the five, and then don't push her to give you a response right away. Back off and give her a few days, weeks even. You can set a time that you both agree on, so that they don't just never come back to you regarding the issue. But like fours and nines, fives do not want to form an opinion on the spot and give you their answer. That's not their favorite thing to do. I'm not saying they're incapable of it, but that will make them not comfortable, because they will not be satisfied that they gave you a thorough enough and appropriately articulated answer. So they don't like things sprung on them. They want to take time, and that's because they are so deep. If you remember the shape of the Enneagram circle, I'll just use the front of my book. 5 is down here at the very bottom, across from 4. And 5s and 4s are our deep friends. They are deep, deep, deep. 4s are feeling emotions deeply, and 5s are thinking deeply. So that profundity is what makes it so they don't want to just give a quick, rough and dirty answer. They don't want to do that. Instead of relying on others, they're going to stockpile what in their minds, and this may or may not be conscious, but they're going to stockpile what they need to survive, and then that'll help them detach. And detachment for them, ironically, is their gift and their curse. So it's a gift that they can detach, because they're really good at not letting external things affect them. But the downside of that is they can be so detached that it's almost like they just live in their head and they don't live in the real world, right? They have a whole universe in their head that's very interesting to them. They can think about their projects and the things that they're fascinated by, and they can easily just lose themselves in that. And back to what I mentioned earlier, not bring themselves like bodily into the world and into their relationships or into their work, work for other people. Into their own work, they'll work round the clock for something they're interested in, but working for the man, right, they might be limited. Funny thing, I might have mentioned this before, but I heard on a podcast once that libertarians, somebody was saying that libertarians are the bisexuals of the political world, right? Because they're not Republican, they're not Democrat. So I heard a comedian say they're the bisexuals. Well, my husband, of course, mostly leans libertarian because he's a 5 and that's just how his framework is. And I told him that joke and he said, that's not true. And I said, yes, it is. And I'm like laughing because I think it's hilarious. And he said, no, we're the asexuals of the political world. And he's actually right. So what he said, I'm not Republican and I'm not Democrat. So basically he's detached, right, from both parties. It's not that he likes things from both parties. He actually just detaches. So that's also another 5 example of how they're going to be maybe what feels to the rest of us like splitting hairs to say their piece. But he was actually right. I mean, in that, even in that joking analysis, he was right to point that out. So they don't make commitments lightly. If they tell you they're going to do something, they are going to do it, but they think about things. So because they're so thoughtful about giving you their word, they expect, maybe not knowingly, but they sort of, I shouldn't say expect in a bad way, but it can be confusing to a 5 if somebody tells the 5 they're going to do something and then the person doesn't do it. That's very confusing to a 5. Because to them, it's like, well, why did you even say you were going to do that thing? So when they make a commitment to you, that's really thoughtful, like they've thought about it and it's very kind. And if you are in a relationship with a 5, that's one of the things they say is, it's really a compliment if a 5 has committed to be your friend or your partner, because it's not easy for 5s to commit to anyone, anything, because they're so detached and they really love their privacy. They love their alone time. They're very solitary creatures, these 5s. So it's, if you have been graced with the love and relationship of a 5, that's actually something, to be grateful for. They keep their distance, though, from most people. They don't like to be the center of attention. They don't want, I've heard it said that in social situations, often 5s are more comfortable if they can get a task to do rather than having to sit and chat with people. 5s do not like small talk. They like speaking about profound things that interest them, but they don't want to just chit-chat about nothingness. That's a waste of their time. They would rather sit there and just be in their own heads than they would exchange niceties with people. They are careful not to reveal too much. They almost never show anger. That's a funny thing. They've trained themselves, again, subconsciously, to not show anger because it almost reveals too much and can be used against them in the future. So they are not spontaneous. They don't like being exposed or vulnerable. And they often are not going to offer their opinion. You can ask them and they will tell you their opinion, but they are not the type of person who's just going to usually interject unless it is a topic where they feel fully confident and competent. 5s are competent types along with type 1 and type 3. And so they don't want to be made a fool of. That's important to them. Some types like mine, I don't care if I'm made a fool of. But 5s do not want to look foolish. And so if you get them talking about something that they are interested in, then they will actually speak a lot on that topic. Right? But once you start veering off of that topic, they're not going to say much. So I think, the default plot, the story that is constantly running in the back of a 5's head is they are noticing who is intruding on them. In other words, who is requiring too much of them, who is pulling from their resources, who is taxing them too much, and avoiding it, staying away from that. It's very easy for them to feel intruded on. And of course, like all of the numbers, there's an irony in their where their attention goes. And the irony with that is that fives do require privacy, and probably more privacy than the rest of us. But in relationships, their privacy can be received as secrecy and cause the others to pry even more into the five's life, right? So the five is withdrawing because she doesn't want you in her business. But the more she withdraws, the more you follow her and say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you withdrawing? What's behind this door? What are you doing? What are you spending your time on? Who are you talking to? What are you working on? And that's the thing they hate the most. So what they don't understand is when they continue to withdraw without providing to people in relationship to them what's going on, they don't say everything, but just, oh, I just need, I need an hour of downtime. I've had a hard day at work and I just need to unwind and do my thing for an hour. Oh, okay, fine. And the other thing is, for people in relationships with five, it's very important to respect their privacy and give them their space. It's okay that they want space. It's not a reflection of how much they do or don't love you, but they need space for themselves. And part of Enneagram work is, being respectable and understanding of the different needs that we all have based on our personalities. So thank you so much for watching. If you're getting anything out of this, please like this video, follow my channel, and stay tuned. There will be another video soon. Thanks.